wouldn't be up for another 2 hours. The bedrooms at Buckshaw were as vast as parade squares, cold, draughty spaces with distant walls and shadowy perimeters, and of them all, mine, in the far south corner of the east wing, was the most distant and the most desolate. Because of a long and rancorous dispute between two of my ancestors, Anthony and William de Luce, about the sportsmanship of certain military tactics during the Crimean War, they had divided Buckshaw into 2 camps by means of a black line painted across the middle of the foyer, a line which each of them had forbidden the other to cross. And so, for various reasons, some quite boring, others downright bizarre, at the time when other parts of the house were being renovated during the reign of King George V, the east wing had been left largely unheated and wholly abandoned. The superb chemical laboratory, built by his father for my great-uncle Tarquin, or Tar de Luce, had stood forgotten and neglected until I had discovered its treasures and made it my own. With the help of Uncle Tar's meticulously detailed notebooks and a savage passion for chemistry that must have been born in my blood, I had managed to become quite good at rearranging what I like to think of as the building blocks of the universe. Quite good, a part of me is saying. Merely quite good? Come off it, Flavia, old chum. You're a bloody marvel and you know it. Most chemists, whether they admit it or not, have a favourite corner of their craft in which they are forever tinkering, and mine is poisons. While I could still become quite excited by recalling how I had dyed my sister Feely's knickers a distinctive Malay yellow by boiling them in a solution of lead acetate, followed by a jolly good stewing in a solution of potassium chromate, what really made my heart leap up with joy was my ability to produce a makeshift but handy poison by scraping the vivid green verdigris from the copper float ball of one of Buckshaw's Victorian toilet tanks. I bowed to myself in the looking-glass, laughing aloud at the sight of the fat white slug in a quilt that bowed back at me. I leapt into my cold clothing, shrugging on at the last minute, on top of everything else, a baggy grey cardigan I had nicked from the bottom drawer of Father's dresser. This lumpy monstrosity, swarming with khaki and maroon diamonds, like an over-baked rattlesnake, had been knitted for him the previous Christmas by his sister Aunt Felicity. "Most thoughtful of you, Lissy," Father had said, deftly dodging any outright praise of the ghastly garment itself. When I noticed in August that he still hadn't worn the thing, I considered it fair game, and it had, since the onset of cold weather, become my favourite. The sweater didn't fit me, of course. Even with the sleeves rolled up, I looked like a baggy monkey picking bananas. But to my way of thinking, at least in winter, woolly warmth trumps freezing fashion any day of the week. I have always made it a point never to ask for clothing for Christmas. Since it's a dead cert that you'll get it anyway, why waste a wish? Last year, I had asked Father Christmas for some badly needed bits of laboratory glassware, had even gone to the trouble of preparing an itemised list of flasks, beakers, and graduated test tubes, which I tucked carefully under my pillow, and by the Lord Harry, he had brought them. Feely and Daffy didn't believe in Father Christmas, which I suppose is precisely the reason he always brought them such dud gifts, scented soap generally, and dressing gowns and slipper sets that looked and felt as if they had been cut from Turkey carpet. Father Christmas, they had told me again and again, was for children. "He's no more than a cruel hoax perpetrated by parents who wish to shower gifts upon their icky offspring without actually having to touch them," Daffy had insisted last year. "He's a myth. Take my word for it. I am, after all, older than you, and I know about these things." Did I believe her? I wasn't sure. When I was able to get away on my own and think about it without tears springing to my eyes, I had applied my rather considerable deductive skills to the problem and come to the conclusion that my sisters were lying. Someone, after all, had brought the glassware, hadn't they? There were only 5 possible human candidates. My father, Colonel Haviland de Luce, was penniless, and was therefore out of the question, as was my mother, Harriet, who had died in a mountaineering accident when I was no more than a baby. Dogger, who was Father's general roustabout and jack-of-all-trades, simply hadn't the resources of mind, body or finance.